Reddit, filing a lawsuit calling for Australia's social media ban for under-16s to be declared invalid. Lawyers for the text-based forum said the ban infringed on freedom of political communication. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from London by Arise correspondent Lape Olarinoye. Good to see you, Lape. So what is Reddit's argument here?
Well, Reddit is arguing that effectively big tech like social media cannot, in its entirety, cannot be stopped from social media users who, in this case, of course, are younger children under the age of 16. They say, of course, that children will be able to navigate the use of social media, creating different prompts, circumventing ways to get onto these platforms, regardless of how much the Australian government stops this from taking place. And so they're calling for that ban to be reviewed and to be readjusted and therefore not go ahead. But of course, Charles, it's worth noting here that this is getting a lot of pushback from parents and the Australian government. The Australian government specifically states that they won't be bullied into big tech. They won't be bullied into going against their rule. They're the first country to take such stringent measures, and parents across Australia and albeit around the world are applauding the Australian government for making this move. They say that the content on social media, the kinds of addictive personalities that it's creating in younger children is something that children should be protected from, which is why they're taking such a landmark step in curbing users under the age of 16 from using specific platforms. Now, I can tell you, Charles, that when Facebook first came about, at the time of its inception, it was only for university users. In fact, you needed to have a university email account to have a Facebook login. That's the same thing that Australia is trying to, the government is trying to almost copy, to be able to create a safe space for children not to have algorithms that are pushing certain kinds of content in their direction. But of course, big tech is not backing down just yet. And this won't be the end of it. But for now, all social media sites have been locked out to children.
And one of Reddit's arguments is, of course, that it is different from other social media platforms. And I think the likes of Google and YouTube are also making similar arguments. And I'm wondering if Reddit, for example, won this case, would it potentially apply only to them and wouldn't affect the others? In other words, would they get a specific exemption to the exclusion of the others, and or would it set a precedent and potentially spur on other affected platforms to challenge this legislation?
It's a really good question you asked there, Charles. There is an element of exemption there, but obviously the danger of that is that once the Australian government allows for one platform to be exempted, then it just opens up the can of worms for all the rest of the social media platforms to then contest the Australian government's ruling. Now, Reddit, of course, is a very different type of platform. It does work very differently. But the question here is, which is very pertinent for the Australian government, can it allow for certain types of content to become more available to younger people? And also, do younger users use platforms like Reddit? But we know it's a discussion thread type of platform, and young people can find almost any kind of content that might be inappropriate for them to engage in and look for more information in. The same goes for YouTube and Google, for example. So YouTube can have a lot of educational content, can allow for a lot of young people to create content that's suitable for their age groups, and allow for that kind of information to be proliferated. Those aforementioned platforms could potentially have a case. However, whether or not the Australian government is going to see it as plausible or will lean towards allowing those kinds of platforms to be used is, of course, very much up in the air at the moment. I think the focus of the Australian government now is to make sure that there are no glitches or hitches along the way to effectively carry out this initial social media ban. And if you look closely at this new regulation, it's really looking at the platforms that are very much dominated with a lot of younger users, platforms like Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook and Instagram, which psychologists have said that has a lot of degenerative content for a younger person's mind. It's colloquially known as brain rot. And a lot of that is these short form contents that just have endless scrolling for younger people that lead to a lot of addiction. That's really the target. That's really the issue. And the algorithm generating similar content that has led to very detrimental issues affecting younger people. Very sensitive issues like suicide, of course, have become a very big part of that. But of course, it's been rebutted for several reasons, and the list goes on. But for now, Reddit may have a plausible case in court, and that could spur on other media platforms as well.
Okay, Lape, thanks very much indeed. Lape Olarinoye is Arise correspondent. She was talking to me on the line from London.